Good evening. I have 7 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Here.
Mr. John Welch,
Present.
and you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Sunrise Christian Academy Superintendent Dr. Rob Lindstedt to lead us in prayer. Dr. Lindstedt.
Thank you. Tonight, my psalm of encouragement is Psalm 107, verse 1, 2, and 8. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he hath redeemed from the hand of the enemy. Then it goes on to say in verse 8, oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Father God, we come to you tonight, and first of all, we want to thank you for our freedom. We want to thank you for our families and our loved ones, and we want to thank you, Father, for the way you blessed our community in so many ways. Father, we pray for those and give you thanks for those who serve us in terms of first responders and for firemen, for our policemen. Father, we think of our elected officials and the sacrifice they make, time away from their family, from their loved ones. Father, we pray for them both on a local, state, and national level, that you would bless them for their service to our community. And then, Father, we pray in a special way tonight for those involved in the conflict in the Middle East. Many of my friends are there. We thank, Father, of those who are anxious for loved ones, for others who have family members held hostage. Father, I pray for those that are anxious, for some that are missing. Father, I pray that there might be a resolution to all that's taking place there. Then, Father, we think of our country and for the freedoms that you've given. Father, we pray that you would preserve them. We request this of you. Father, again, we thank you tonight for salvation through the completed work of Jesus Christ on the cross, his death, his blood shed, and his resurrection. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the American flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we have a proclamation concerning Veterans Day. So to the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas, greetings. Whereas Veterans Day has its origins in the November 11, 1918 armistice, which brought an end to World War I to a conclusion, and whereas the Allied victory in World War I affirmed the strength of great nations acting together for high purposes, and whereas the people of the United States caused through their elected representatives the designating of November 11 as a federal legal holiday, which in 1954 became officially known as Veterans Day. And whereas the Veterans Day continues to be celebrated and commemorated with the solemn observances in honor of all Americans who have served their country in times of war and conflict. And whereas the courage, honor, sacrifice, and dedication of veterans of the United States Armed Forces have displayed the cause of justice, freedom, and democracy are most worthy of recognition. Now, therefore, I, Jim Benage, Mayor, do hereby call upon all citizens to commend Americans, veterans, and observe the solemn pride November 11, 2023, to be celebrated as Veterans Day. And I have signed this proclamation and given it to the city clerk. Next item on the agenda is determine agenda additions. Are there any agenda additions that we need to consider? Hearing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. The consent agenda contains the minutes of the October 7th regular council meeting, the October 25th special council meeting, and the October 30th special council meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Discussion and approval of appropriations ordinance. So this reporting period includes 2 payroll periods. Debt and operation and maintenance of CCUA totaled $195,000. 53rd Street work from Oliver to Woodlawn came to $56,800. Various engineering projects totaled $288,000. Paving in Bristol Hollows amounted to $318,000. Water purchase from the city of Wichita was $136,300, with trash fees to Waste Connections equaling $43,000. Eric John Instaform received $102,240 payment for sewer lining project, leaving a project balance of $31,000 to be paid in November. Also, 2 Dodge Durangos and PD graphics were purchased for $87,882 through the Equipment Reserve Fund. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the appropriations order unless there's any discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
I just had a question about the CCUA reserve item. What was it called?
Yeah, I'll let Ted answer that since he's here.
Contingency, the CCUA contingency.
Yeah, and this has been on a few years, I believe. The best I know, it's more of a cash flow issue. They do contingencies. It all gets worked up into the annual split between the 2 cities. It's more of either you're talking the CIP reserve, I believe. I got an email earlier, but
Right. It was a $5,820.
yeah, they have a CIP fund where each city contributes just a little bit in case they're in need of a large equipment purchase. I think in the previous past, if it's been over $100,000, they'll go to each city and say, "Can we do this?" But it's more the small items that they bill the cities for, and that's the way it works out. And maybe one of the CCUA members has a better understanding of it, but that's my understanding of what when the invoices come through.
So it's kind of an out of sequence of the normal payments.
No, it's always monthly.
Okay.
It's a monthly. It's always
It is.
on our invoice.
So a couple items that we've paid recently out of that fund are like the switch for the backup generator that failed. We had to buy a fairly expensive switch for that. And the painting project, I think, was paid out of that fund as well. The $100,000 painting project that we had to do for the pipes in the basement area.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Very good. Thank you. Good question. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'll make a motion to approve the appropriations ordinance number 23-20.
And I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. We do not have any city requested appearances, although we have lots of folks here tonight, so that's always encouraging. So do we have any citizens here that wish to speak under citizen concerns? Clerk, City Clerk, did you have any cards? No. Okay. Mr. Lyle Ackerman, would you like to speak?
I would. I filled out a form, but either my watch doesn't synchronize with yours.
Oh, okay.
The meeting started a little early.
Yeah, that clock was a little slow. Yeah. Anyway, we'll have to get that fixed. But if you would like to speak,
Anyway, I filled out a form.
I'll give you 3 minutes. Yeah, Mr. Ackerman, please come to the podium and speak in the microphone, and please state your name and address for the record.
All right, good evening. Good to see you all here this evening. My name is Lyle Ackerman. I reside at 4920 North Hillcrest, Bel Aire, Kansas, 67220. I voted today. Tried to vote twice, once here, had to go over to the rec center, misunderstanding my problem. My concern is Woodlawn. I don't see anything on the agenda this evening regarding Woodlawn. Myself and a lot of my neighbors and citizens out here are looking for a new date that's going to be finished. I've talked to Pearson's, I've talked to Garver. I don't get anywhere. I've talked to other folks, and I know that there may be some litigation going on. I don't know what to tell my neighbors when they ask me whether this road's likely to be done by spring or not. But I do have a request in the meantime, until you get this worked out, is there's a lot of power concentrated behind that bench here. And I think somebody could find the power to direct someone to fill the potholes going north on Woodlawn. There's not enough space to try and dodge them. And I've even offered to fill them myself if the city or someone else would give me the asphalt to do that. And I've already have a dozen volunteers to help me. So I appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. And we are trying to get some more information out about Woodlawn. So hopefully we'll have something here shortly. Okay. Thank you. Any other citizens' concerns? Hearing none, we'll move on to council member reports. Ms. Hamburg, would you like to start with reports?
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last regular meeting, with a couple of special meetings thrown in between, on October 18th, I attended the KDOT's local consult. Bel Aire was well represented between staff and governing body, and I'm happy to report that we were able to get the K254 corridor a high priority in all of the breakout groups. And of course, we weren't the only ones concerned about that in the area, but that was good news. On October 21st, I attended the Fall Festival. I enjoyed chatting with residents when I was going back and forth between my booth and the soccer games that were wrapping up that day. I really appreciate all of the rec staff and the volunteer coaches that made that a successful season, and also a record-breaking season in terms of number of participants. On October 28th, I attended Sunrise's performance of The Play That Goes Wrong, and it was very good as usual. And I'm looking forward to when those performances, as my understanding, can be held in Bel Aire with Sunrise's expansion. Appreciate just all the neighbors. We had a good time trick-or-treating last week with the kids, and everybody does a great job decorating. And I was just impressed with everybody taking it slow, and it was just a really fun night. Both times in October, I was on my list and I didn't mention it, so I will make the third time the charm. I do appreciate Aurora Park Gravel Roads Task Force taking the time to work on that and find a solution that is that works for the residents that live in that area. So I appreciate their work over the past year. And then finally, I have enjoyed campaigning and walking and talking over the past several weeks. I've gone to dead ends and neighborhoods and things like that that are normally just on a map on a paper when we come here. So it's been very good to do that. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Dean, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few things. On October 18th, I attended a walking event. I think I brought this up at the last meeting, but it was ahead of the event. The event was successful. Isley hosted it. It was a walk to school event that started at Central Park Pool, walked through the neighborhood to Isley. There was 30 kids that participated, about 10 adults. It was a pretty successful event. And again, on October 20th, Isley hosted a family movie night. It was a really good event. They had food trucks and they played a movie. And, kids were running around. It was a great time. So I wanted to thank the PTO and all the school staff that put that together. The new principal out there used it as a way to build some relationships. And I just appreciate Isley for doing those things. I think that's a really good, healthy thing for a community to have schools hosting events like that. So, and then on October 21st, wanted to also bring up Fall Fest. It's been several weeks. It feels like it's been a long time, but I did enjoy that. It seemed to me to be a record-breaking turnout as far as folks and vendors. Spoke with a lot of different folks and asked them where they came from, and it was amazing to hear how many different communities came to our Fall Fest when I asked that question. So really appreciate everybody that attended. Also the rec staff for a great sports season. My daughter played volleyball this year, and they did a great job with that. I'm not going to touch on the KDOT local consult that I also did attend, but I'm going to touch on the virtual consult that I attended. KDOT, in addition to their district consults, also held a virtual one, and I am happy to report that the same result happened in that meeting. We had high priority for the projects on K254, which is great news for our community. And then two more things. K254 Corridor Management Plan public meeting is tomorrow from 5:30 to 7 at Circle Middle School, I believe. I do plan to attend. And then this Saturday, the Tree Board is hosting an event here in City Hall in the community room, I believe, in conjunction with Sedgwick County Extension to talk about trees in our community. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Welch.
I have no report.
Okay, thank you. Mr. David.
No report. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also attended the Fall Festival. It's been well covered. It was a great event. Also attended the virtual consult, which Mr. Dean covered very well to support the K254 project work, and that was well attended and a great meeting. And then on October 26th, we had our regularly scheduled CCUA meeting, which I attended. Key things from that meeting: we received proposals for well maintenance. It's been a while since proposals went out to look at contractors to do the regular maintenance on the wells. And so we received new proposals from vendors with updated pricing. And so those were opened at the meeting and will be considered at the next meeting. Overall, that'll be, I think, a decent price increase no matter which vendor we go with. Like all prices are going up. We also covered some maintenance items and spent most of the meeting discussing the progress on the CCUA consent order, trying to work through some alternatives and how to respond to the KDHE consent order that had a response deadline of October 31st. We spent about 4 hours talking about that. And at 8:14 p.m., Mayor John Lanier of Park City announced that the board members from Park City would be leaving, and the meeting ended due to lack of a quorum. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So I'll give you my report. I also attended the KDOT District 5 consult, and I won't repeat what Ms. Hamburg and Mr. Dean have said, but I do encourage people to go to the meeting tomorrow night if you're able to at Circle Middle School. I think that's from 5:30 to 7 p.m. It gives your input on K254. On October 20th, I was invited to talk with the kindergartners at Sunrise Christian Academy. So they asked questions about how I became mayor and what does the mayor do, which was fun talking with these little ones. Maybe let's give them a very small introduction to city government. Can't tell them a lot because they don't understand a lot, but it's fun. So I attended the Fall Fest on October 21st. Always a great turnout with Bel Aire citizens and people from surrounding communities. A big thank you to the Bel Aire Chamber, the Bel Aire Lions Club, the Bel Aire Police, the Bel Aire Rec Center, and Bel Aire staff, and as well as others who helped out put this together. It does not happen without everyone's help. So it's a great effort, and we really appreciate that. So on October 19th, Mr. Lasher and I met with the CEO of Integra Technologies to learn the latest on their efforts to gain CHIPS funding. Today, it looks like the best case will be sometime in December, but there is no guarantee on that timing because it's up to the federal regulators. On October 25th, Mr. Lasher and I met with Tom Stiles from KDHE concerning the CCUA consent order. This helped gain some understanding about KDHE's expectations for response to the consent order. On October 26th, the CCUA met but could not come to consensus as to how to respond to the consent order. Shockingly, the mayor of Park City announced that Park City's intention is to allow KDHE to issue fines and allow those fines to accumulate until fines equal the price of Park City's desired expansion. Shortly thereafter, that announcement, Park City delegation of CCUA board members walked out of the meeting without adjournment. So not having a quorum prevented the board from taking any action to formalize the response to KDHE. And that was due on October 31, 2023. There have been two efforts to enter into mediation. One was declined by Park City. The other one was a motion made by this council at its last council meeting, and we've received no response to that motion. I believe it is, I think it is unbelievable that an elected official would even suggest abusing the legitimate enforcement tools of KDHE in a way to force Bel Aire to pay for an expansion of wastewater facility that is not needed to support the current projected demands of Bel Aire. All people, Bel Aire and Park City citizens, should be outraged at such a proposal. So on October 30th, I did send a letter to KDHE concerning the consent order on behalf of the city of Bel Aire. So please continue to support the businesses along Woodlawn. We hope to get this thing wrapped up soon, but things continue to move slow. We'll have to endure it for a little bit longer. So I'll now ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So tonight, I'm just going to briefly, for a few minutes, talk about the Attorney General opinion, number 2023-5. This has been in the media quite a bit lately, and I'll start off from the very beginning. There is a Kansas statute. Based upon that Kansas statute, cities of second and third classes must have an official newspaper. That statute specifically tells us what type of a newspaper that we are supposed to have. For example, it must be published at least weekly 50 times each year and have been so published for at least 1 year prior to the publication of any official city publication. It must be entered at the post office of publication. There are very specific details of what we look at for an official newspaper. That statute is what led to a question that went to the AG's office. Kansas House Representative Stephen Owens sent a question to the AG's office asking a specific question. That question is whether second-class cities may exempt themselves from the statute, the one that I just referred to. May second-class cities exempt themselves from that statute when using home rule? The AG's office looked at that. They did research upon it. They thought about it. Depending upon which newspaper article you read, you'll see different variations. But the truth of this specific AG opinion, they said, it's not that cities should do one thing or the other. The response is that based upon their research, they did not see anything in state law that prohibits a second-class city from using home rule to use a charter ordinance and then opt out of using a specific newspaper. That being said, there are some specific notices that still must be published in a newspaper, especially when we talk about financial topics. There is a specific statute, KSA 792929, that specifically talks about taxpayers have an opportunity to be heard on anything that would affect them, and that must be given notice to them. So even if a jurisdiction were to charter out a second of first-class city, and they want to use their website, per this AG opinion, their office is very clear that we still must publish those notices that involve financial taxpayers, make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. Those must still be published in a newspaper. So I just wanted to at least share that because I know going later on in the agenda, we're going to have an item. So I thought that would be make sure that we all started on the same page. The other thing that I would mention is when I look at this, the Attorney General opinion, there's been multiple news articles talking about municipalities feeling required to do it. I want to make sure that you understand with the Attorney General opinion, it was just an answer to a question, not trying to make municipalities go one way or another, just providing information that if you wanted to, that nothing in statute prohibited a municipality from moving forward. That was all.
Very good. Thank you. And city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items. Just want to let the public know that city offices will be closed on Friday due to Veterans Day. And then on Saturday, the Lions Club is hosting their Taste of Italy. It's at the Gospel Assembly Church from 4 to 7 p.m. And the Lions are great supporters of Bel Aire, so wanted to share that with the citizens. They want some good Italian food to swing by that evening. So that was all I had, Mayor.
Very good. Yes, I recommend people do support the Lions Club on that effort. Unfortunately, I got to be out of town, but
It's
Otherwise,
always
it'd
a
be-
good dinner.
it's always good. Yes. So we'll move on to ordinance resolutions and final actions. The first item under item A, at our October 17th regular city council meeting, council authorized the sale of general obligation bonds. These bonds will retire temp notes for projects that were special assessed in September. Per state statute, a notice of public hearing was published in the Ark Valley News, and the hearing for the special assessments was held at the September 19th city council meeting. The bond will be for 20 years, and special assessments collected from benefiting lots will cover the annual bond payments. So bids were taken today, and Adam Pope with Columbia Capital is here to share the results. Mr. Pope.
Mayor, Council, Adam Pope, Columbia Capital Management. Great to be back in Bel Aire. I feel like I come once a year and get to see all your smiling faces, so it's good to be back. As the mayor mentioned, there's, I think it's items A, B, and C, so I'm going to kind of talk
You got three
about
items, yes.
both the
Yeah.
bonds and the notes, so I don't you only have to hear from me once. So we'll start with the bonds. As the mayor said, these were bonds today that are providing fixed interest rates for previously issued notes that were issued back in 2020. They include both special assessment, but there's also some city at large projects in there as well for, I think, mainly Woodlawn. So they were sold this morning. We had 4 bidders, as you can see. I have a handout that's kind of a summary of both the bonds and the notes. So the bonds are on the left-hand side. We had 4 bidders. The winning firm was Robert W. Baird, a name that we say very often here at Bel Aire. They frequently bid and frequently win. You can see they bid a true interest cost, which is kind of the one number that we use to award the winner. They bid 4.248%. You can see they were about 20 basis points through the cover bid or the second place bid, which was 4.44. So very aggressive bid, really on the market. Over the last couple of weeks, I think at your last meeting, Kevin and I had dinner before we came over here, and he said, y'all had some discussion about interest rates. Luckily, since that meeting, interest rates really moved in the favor. We've seen rates come down, which is great. We can then pass that savings along to you. So the total par amount is $5.425 million. You can see kind of details of what the debt service is. Again, I think it's maybe a little over half of this is special assessment debt for various development throughout the city, and about half of it is for city at large projects. So, roughly a little over about $410,000 in debt service per year. And as the mayor said, going through 2044, there was a Garden City deal that priced today as well. It was a bit shorter. It only went out to 2033, but comparing where the rates that the city had versus Garden City, very comparable. The city did better than Garden City in some maturities. Maybe Garden City did a little bit better than some others, but overall, very comparable. They were rated AA3, which is, it's a different rating agency. That's a Moody's rating. The city's rated by S&P AA minus. So AA3 and AA minus are the same. They just use a different nomenclature. So the city was reaffirmed at AA minus, which is a great result. As you can remember last year, the city was upgraded from A plus to AA minus. We're able to keep that rating. We had a great rating call. Ted did a great job as always in providing all kind of information ahead of time. Showed all kind of great maps of showing all the development, and the analyst is always so surprised about what's going on in Bel Aire and how much development there is, and always a little bit shocked at how much continues to be year after year after year. So very good result there. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the notes. We also did temp notes for various development projects throughout the city. Totaled a little less than 7 million, 6.855 million. You can see we had 2 bids for the notes. Again, Baird was the winning bidder as well. And again, they were 25 basis points better than the second place bid. Yesterday, City of Mays priced notes that were roughly the same maturity. I think their maturity is November 1 and these are December 1 of 2026. But theirs priced with a 4% coupon. This was 4% coupon with a 4% yield. Theirs was a 4% coupon, but a higher yield of 4 1/8 or 4.125%. So it did a little bit better than Mays. Their deal was a little bit bigger. Sometimes the bidders can be a little more aggressive on the smaller deals and they just like your credit a little bit better maybe. So did better than Mays. So great result there. So these will come back in 2026 and kind of same process with the bonds. We'll then fix those out and bond that debt at that time. So happy to answer any questions about these two sales or markets in general.
So just to be clear, items A and B on the agenda, and you may not have the agenda in front of you, but I think the bonds refer to item A and B.
That's correct.
And the temp notes refer to item C.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
I think ordinance is A, Kevin, and then resolution for the bonds is B, and then just a ordinance for the, just resolution, excuse me, resolution for the notes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pope? I see Mr. Cowan's here from Gilmore and Bell as well, if you have any questions about bonds that he could answer. No questions. I'll entertain a motion for item A.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of general obligation bond series 2023A of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith, and making certain covenants with respect thereto, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Welch. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I think this is an ordinance. Will we do a roll call vote on this one? It's not on our agenda that way, but we often do.
You're right. We often do.
That, just want to make sure we.
So, Ms. Schrock?
No,
What's your
I
opinion?
agree with roll call.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's do a roll call then. Can Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you for pointing that out.
Mr. Greg David,
Aye.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Aye.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Aye.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Aye.
Mr. John Welch.
Aye.
And the motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item B, which is same issue. So I'll entertain a motion for item B. But
Miss-
it's not an ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion to approve a resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of a general obligation bond series 2023A of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, previously authorized by ordinance number 708 of the issuer, making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. And we'll move on to item C, which is the temp notes. So council authorized the sale of those temp notes and to fund new improvements petitioned by property owners at our October 17th meeting. And Adam Pope has already spoke with us about this. If you have any questions of him or Mr. Kevin Cowan, they are both here. There are no questions. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean, or Mr. David.
I'll motion to approve a resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation temporary notes series 2023B of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax if necessary for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said notes as they become due, making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Mr. David and a second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. So item D is Task Force, Aurora Park Task Force, Gravel Roads Task Force. I'll get it right yet on drainage report. So at their last meeting, the Aurora Park Gravel Roads Task Force agreed to recommend the city complete the drainage improvements recommended by Garver in their drainage study. In addition, they believe a slower speed limit will help reduce dust and issues with the gravel streets. Action is to accept and file. I believe there is a representative from the task force here. I think I saw them. And if they would like to address the council, you're certainly welcome to come up and talk to the council. Do you-
If the council has any questions, by all means, let me know.
Okay, yeah. If we do have questions, I would like you to come to the podium to answer them. So it'd be, because this is recorded and you gotta be on the mic, okay? So, all right, very good. So, are there any questions of the task force?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
I don't think I have any questions of the task force. Is it the intent that this would be a discussion topic at a future workshop?
Yes, that is what I was going to say next. It would be appropriate for a future workshop.
Then I won't start asking about details here. So.
Okay, very good. Okay, additionally, I would like to ask our city attorney to research whether we can lower the speed limit based on a petition of the residents. So it seems to me that speed limits can only be changed based upon information learned from a traffic study, and I'm hoping I have the wrong impression here. So I would appreciate some information on that for our workshop. So, okay. So the action here is to accept and file, and we would revisit this at a workshop where we can have a more thorough discussion, and hopefully we'll invite the task force as well to come to that workshop.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg,
I'm going to make a motion to accept and file the Aurora Park Gravel Roads Task Force Drainage Report and Speed Reduction Report.
I'll second.
motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. And please, when we do bring this up for workshop, invite the task force to participate. Next item E is selecting owner's representative in case we get so lucky as to complete the Integra thing. So understanding Integra could be locating on the southeast corner of Rock and K254 in Bel Aire, several public infrastructure improvements will be needed. These include water, sewer, and street upgrades. All of this must be completed in 2 years to be ready for the Integra start date. This means numerous projects occurring at once, such as design, engineering, construction, and inspections. Bel Aire does not have the staff to manage multiple projects at once. Therefore, a request for proposals was created to solicit companies who can handle the many projects occurring at once and represent the city. An RFQ was sent to 7 companies and 2 responded, PEC and Burns and McDonnell. I created an interview committee consisting of myself, Mr. Councilmember Welch, Ted Henry, and Ann Stevens, our city engineer. Both companies were interviewed, and the committee unanimously felt PEC had the best proposals, experience, and knowledge to represent the city. So the action on the agenda is tonight is to accept the committee's recommendations and authorize staff to negotiate an agreement. The agreement will not be approved until Integra is ready to start construction or when the governing body feels it is in the best interest of the city to bring on an owner's representative. At that point, the agreement will come before the governing body for consideration. So, any discussion on this subject, certainly welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to point out for the public that both firms were very close. It was just a slight edge to pick PEC.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, it was. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
a couple things. So first, I wanted to kind of mention what John had just said. Like both these firms, we've worked with both of them. They're both capable firms. We will continue to work with both of them. And I think that's a good position for Bel Aire to be in, to have good partners, and PEC will do a fine job. But also I wanted to kind of make some concerns known. So one concern I have with an owner's rep setup is how we're going to manage it once the agreement's in place, meaning how this governing board will control the cost of said owner's rep. So one thing I want to understand a little bit better from the city manager is how he sees that happen, and kind of describe that for the public, how the actions would occur in the future with tasks and authorization to spend and so on and so forth.
So don't have a lot of those details worked out yet. That's something that will, the next step will be creating that agreement. Have spent a lot of time thinking about that, and part of the requirements are going to be how they will be meeting with the governing body to share details. One of the issues that was in the RFQ was that they would not do design work unless it was approved by council, because the owner's rep would be representing the city,
Right.
and there could be a conflict if they were actually doing design work as well. So that's something that both understood. That'll be included in there. And then the other piece is, if you read through the request for qualifications, there's a lot of different responsibilities that we can put on the owner's rep, and it will be up to the governing body and staff to determine where we need the help, what kind of help, and then at that point, that's where we will determine the amount of hours needed to control the costs.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be kind of like a smorgasbord. Both firms have all kinds of engineers and individuals that can bring help to project management of this, and we'll have to work with them to determine how much of each we need them, because some of it could be not just public infrastructure, but it could be reviewing building plans and things like that. Some of those costs are passed on through the building permit process. Some of the engineering and such will be passed on through special assessments if we do some of that. But definitely the cost is going to be a factor that we will have to monitor and cover that.
No, I really appreciate that, Ty. I just wanted to point it out to the public that this is quite a bit different arrangement than we've had in the past. And obviously there will be costs in addition to approving this. There's an agreement that'll come, and then there's going to be future decisions made by this governing body that will help direct the use of the owner's rep and costs of said owner's rep. So thank you.
So I'd just like to add on to that is, when you get this kind of an aggressive project, you have a real critical mass there, and you need a depth of knowledge and resources that can quickly address those. Having an owner's rep like PEC or Burns and Mac give you that depth of resources that we just don't have. We have one staff engineer. They have staffs of 50 engineers. I don't know what the numbers were. I can't remember. But they have lots of engineers with lots of different disciplines. So,
Yep.
Civil engineer is one thing, but a particular engineer with a particular discipline that you need, they have that staff, and we just don't have that, and nor would it be sense for us to ever hire that.
Right.
So
No, it
this
certainly makes
a lot.
it certainly makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we're not going to hire 20 or 30 new staff to handle it. So this is a way to augment staff.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure the public understands how we're going to continue to control the cost piece and partner with the owner's rep to help us accomplish our goals. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
With that said, Mayor, I would motion to accept the request for qualifications from PEC and authorize the staff to negotiate an agreement for said owner's rep services.
I have a motion by Mr. Dean. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. David. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
just a question for those that interviewed. Did you guys get to talk with the people that we'll be working with directly? I don't know exactly how kind of that process works for like this owner's rep, type of engagement, but sometimes when you engage with the company, they send a sales team to talk to you, and then you work with a different team, and that doesn't always give you the best perspective on who you'll be working with. Did you get the opportunity to talk with the people that we would be working with as you made your assessment?
We talked with some. I can't say it was an in-depth discussion with a lot of the people that we'd be working with, but I think PEC had 5 people here, and 1 or 2 of those would be on that team. I cannot remember how many Burns and Mac had, but I think it was 3, but I can't remember. Do you remember, Mr. Wells?
I was thinking they had 5 also.
They might have had 5 as well. I just don't remember that.
I will say both of them brought the person that would be our direct point of contact.
Yeah.
They did not bring everybody that works for the company. So,
Yeah.
But you guys were able to talk to the person that would be our direct point of contact, and that was a component of what you were evaluating.
Definitely.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions or discussion? We have a motion on the table. If there's no questions or discussions, I'll call a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item F, Kansas statute, and this is related to Charter Ordinance 24 that our city attorney spoke about just a little bit ago. So Kansas statute requires certain documents to be published in an official city newspaper. The Ark Valley News was designated as Bel Aire's official city newspaper many years ago. So ordinances, charter ordinances, IRB documents, budgets, hearings, etc., all types of notices that require publication. So on July 26, 2023, the Kansas Attorney General issued Opinion 2023-5 and states the cities of second and third class may utilize home rule to exempt themselves out of designating a print newspaper as official city newspaper. Instead, designate the city website as its official city newspaper. So governing body approved Charter Ordinance 24 on August 15th, 2023, which allows the city to name Bel Aire website as the official city publication source for required public notice. As with any charter ordinance, a petition for referendum must be filed within 61 days after final publication. On October 16th, a petition was received by the Sedgwick County Election Office and validated. There were 1,524 ballots cast in 2021 general election on November 2nd, 2021. Therefore, 151 signatures are required for a valid petition. The 224 signatures were received, 211 were accepted, 13 rejected. Ark Valley News then filed the validated petition with the city on October 19th, 2023. So as I understand this, the governing body has 3 options. First, to approve a special election. The second is to rescind the charter ordinance and continue publishing notices as required. And the third is to rescind the charter ordinance and approve a new charter ordinance near the general election and have the question included on the ballot, which would be August 6th of 2024. So tonight, the options are to approve a special election or rescind the charter ordinance. There is another option there that I would like to entertain that wasn't in these notes, but I'm hearing chatter that the state legislature may pass some legislation with regard to this issue. I don't know what that legislation will look like because I'm only hearing chatter. And if they do pass something, that may change what we want to do as a result. So maybe it's wise to just consider canceling this ordinance for now, see what the legislature does, and in the spring revisit this issue to see if there's something we should or should not do. So that's my thought. So, but I will ask the city attorney to expand upon these options if she'd like to say any more.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're absolutely correct, because at this time you have to decide if you want to proceed with a special election. If you do, then we choose one of those dates that is available. Now, I don't know if the council wants to have discussion about proceeding or not, but that's of course your first option.
Mhm.
If you don't want to proceed, then you can rescind the original motion. It doesn't have to be by the same individual who made the motion. It can be anyone on the council. You can also choose not to rescind. You can just say, today, I don't want to have a special election. We've discussed it. Then that means Charter Ordinance number 24 will basically expire. We will have official minutes showing that the Bel Aire City Council does not want to proceed, does not want to call a special election, does not want to choose a date, and at this time, knowingly is going to allow Charter Ordinance 24 to expire. Those are options available to you.
Is there any difference between rescinding it and letting it expire?
Rescinding just requires a motion, a second, and then a vote. The expiry is just basically, you don't have to do any of those, but you're just saying out loud that you're choosing not to proceed with a special election. Then ultimately, we will let the election office know. If the Bel Aire City Council does not want to proceed, we'll let them know so they have some kind of a hard copy paper trail, and they can use that in order to make their own schedule going forward.
And for the second option, we only have 90 days to do that, isn't that right? Or something like that, so that we would have to pay for the election. We couldn't piggyback on any other election.
You would ultimately, we would be paying Bel Aire City Council, yes. Now, if for any reason you decided to do this again next year, and depending upon the time that you do it, there's a possibility that you would not have to pay. But that depends upon you getting certain things done within a certain time frame. In fact, I have that date.
Yeah, I think this election city or the Sedgwick County Election Office said there's only 2 dates in January available. And that's all that's available. There's an issue with a presidential primary being in March that you can't be within so many days of that primary. And so this thing has 2 dates in January for a special election. And that's the only options. And I don't remember what those dates were, but do you remember what those dates were?
January 9th and January 16th. Those were the 2 dates, and those were confirmed by not only the manager, but myself from the election office.
And if we want to piggyback, the first election was like August or something, wasn't it?
August 6th, which means we would need to get onto that. We would need to alert the election office regarding our question by June 3rd of 2024.
Third.
Mhm.
Did you validate that with them?
Well, that is the date that I received from the election office. That
Okay.
would be the filing deadline for submitting information to get onto the primary election ballot.
Okay.
Now, if you're curious about the general election ballot, the filing deadline for submitting information for that ballot would be September 1.
Well, the reason it's just June 3rd is because that's the Monday. That's the first Monday in June. Saturday and Sunday are the first and second are Saturday and Sunday. So that's why it's June 3rd. But it's always June 1st in my mind. And so when you said that, I thought, oh, what's happened?
Well, I wanted to make sure that we knew those dates. That's why I reached out to Laura Rainwater.
Great.
And she checked her schedule to confirm.
Thank you.
Okay, my thought is we should let it expire and get it scheduled for the first meeting in June to reconsider.
Or May, to meet the
Probably
deadline.
May.
Did you not say June 23rd was the deadline?
June 3rd.
June 3rd, excuse me. Okay, the last meeting in May then.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
my thought on this is that we should go ahead and hold the special election. We all supported this because we think it's in the best interest of Bel Aire. I know that there was a protest petition filed, but I read the articles in the Breeze that encouraged people to come sign the protest petition, and they were all in the context of Save the Breeze, which has nothing to do with the ordinance that we passed. And I think that if we schedule this special election and we make public the information about what we're trying to do here, which has nothing to do with the Breeze, that the public is going to support this change. This is a positive change for making public notices for Bel Aire. So I think we should just go ahead and take care of it.
I agree with you, except for the cost of the election.
In my mind, it is unfortunate that that's going to cost us, but that's the process. Folks have the right to do the protest petition for any charter ordinance. And that's, I think, just a part of this is how I'm thinking about it.
So would we make that a mail election then? We wouldn't need people to come in to.
From what I understand, you would still go forward with picking a date. There is no assurance that you would be able to do mail. We would still have to pay costs. Now, what that total is, there is an equation that is used, and that equation is very not friendly because it doesn't give us an exact amount.
Mr. Mayor.
It's gonna at least probably be approximately almost $10,000.
Mr. Mayor, I did have a question. So earlier there was comment made that there's still notices that are going to go in the newspaper. do we have any idea what percentage of the new notices that the city puts out every year are going to be required? Is it 50%? Do we have any ballpark of what that is?
I don't have a percentage. All I know is. I don't have a percentage. I just know that financial, anything involving the proposed budgets, those will all need to be published.
Yeah, I would think at least 75% would be reduced at least.
Gotcha. So I'm kind of in the same vein of holding a special election, and for a lot of the same reasons that Mr. Smith noted, that we all supported this. We all believe that it's to actually improve transparency. It's going to be more accessible to folks that aren't just subscribers of the newspaper that it currently goes to. So I think that we should have a special election for those reasons. And I also believe that, waiting, there was a discussion about cost. We're continuing to spend money on notices in the newspaper in which we could start putting those in on our website. So some of that cost would be saved, but that is really not the issue here. The issue, I think, is trying to help streamline our communication, make sure that it's in front of everybody that wants to see it and it's accessible to those that aren't just subscribers. So I'm in support of the special election option.
I don't think we're going to be prepared to put it on the website by January. I think we need somebody to do some labor first to be able to do that. Well, January is only 2 months. We'd have to,
Maria, can you clarify if we were held a special election when those actions would become? Do we have a timeline of from when we brought the vote?
Right. There are IT questions, of course, getting that up and running. I do not have an answer as to when that would be ready to go.
Yeah, I would think we could do it in 30 days.
Okay.
different question then. If the election passed, would we have to do it immediately, or could we take our time getting the website ready and continue to advertise in the newspaper until then?
You could continue. You could continue publishing a newspaper. You could put an update on the website as to we are currently in the process of getting certain things in order to use this and continue using your newspaper. That's correct. There's actually another jurisdiction, I can't remember the name of it, they actually voted to, I think it might have been Hillsborough. They actually voted in favor of using a website, but then time went on and they were a little bit slow about getting it done. So
Can you speak in your microphone? I think he's not picking you up.
Thank you. You can put on the website that you're getting things in order, that you need a certain amount of time, that ultimately by this specific time, you should be on the website using that for your specific notifications. But again, just because you have a website and you're using that website does not mean that you are not publishing in the newspaper for all of those financial type items.
Yeah, I would assume that in that case, it would go in both. It would be posted to our website as well as the required notice in the newspaper.
Right. There's no developed process, but I anticipate so.
So just to clarify the election process, I don't know how this exactly works with special elections, but like the election that's over today, those that win the votes today are not officially elected. Okay. There's a canvassing process that goes on, and the Board of Canvassers, which happens to be the same as the Sedgwick County Commission, has to approve that election. That won't happen for a couple of weeks. Okay. Because they have to go back and validate the votes. They got to do a lot of work. The election office has a lot of work to do right now. And that'll take a couple weeks. This will be similar. I don't know how long it'll take them because it's a smaller election. It's just a one issue off issue, but there will be a process there. And it may be that process may be a week or two after the election.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'd like to make a motion to uphold Charter Ordinance number 24 and schedule a special election.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Dean. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
At least one of the reasons I supported the ordinance in the first place was to save costs. That's the way it was presented, that we would save cost of the paper versus our website. And so that's why I'll have to vote no on this, because I'm not ready to spend the estimated $10,000 just to move it forward that much. I don't think it's a win for Bel Aire.
So one of my big concerns, and I'd like to hear others speak as well, is the reason I thought this was a really excellent thing to do is because this actually improves transparency, expands transparency in a way probably the best possible that you could do. And it's something we don't currently have, and it would expand that transparency. More people would have more access to what is going on with these publications. They don't have that today, and not in a sparsely I mean, the Dark Valley News, there are people who subscribe to it in Bel Aire, but I can't name 5 people that I know that do that. Okay, it's just not widely read in Bel Aire. Putting on the website, that's where people will go to get information about Bel Aire. So I think this really expands transparency, leaps and bounds over our current practice. But let's leave it at that. It is the council's decision. So, Ms. Hamburg, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the sentiment from Mr. Smith and Mr. Dean. This generated a lot of discussion. The paper painted it in sort of a light that we could be up to something nefarious. And to be fair, you do have to think down the road. Maybe we're not going to be nefarious with it, but could future councils, could future staff, without that third party printed paper, could that become an issue? I was comfortable because when this deal was struck in 2006, YouTube was like a baby. Nobody was using it. Everybody can be their third party verifier as long as we're on here. Now, I know people say, well, I don't want to watch a whole council meeting. The breeze is going to give it to me and do the work of listening to you all talk for 3 hours, so I don't have to. I think there are some things we can do in terms of, this is maybe a little off the beaten path, but to that, we'd have to talk, what it would take technologically wise, but maybe putting some bookmarks with agenda items so that people can have checkpoints along the way. To Mr. Dean's question, I don't feel comfortable supporting this right now when I don't know, maybe we're going to end up doing 90% of it having to be printed anyway. And also in light of, there's this question and chatter at the legislature that they may make a decision top down on us. So I feel I can't get behind the spending the money on the special election, although I agree in many ways with what Mr. Smith said. I would rather let this ride a little bit than hold the special election in January. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I do just want to be clear. From my perspective, this isn't about the cost. It's not about the cost savings. It's about improving the transparency, providing the ability to actually notify people when there are notices. People sign up on our websites for notifications today, and this could expand on that. And then I also see this as a step forward, improving the customer service for those trying to develop here in Bel Aire, because our public notices can go up immediately and not need to wait for publishing deadlines. And so that allows us to be more responsive to those that are trying to develop in Bel Aire. And I see those as the wins. This isn't about the cost at all for me. And that's a huge factor in why I made the motion the way that I did. Thank you.
Well, I believe we all fully support this ordinance. It's just a question of how we want to go about implementing it. So.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the table to uphold the Charter Ordinance 24 and schedule a special election by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Dean. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I hear 2 ayes. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I hear 3 opposed. So this motion fails. Do we want?
I would offer a motion that we just let it lapse, that we let Charter Ordinance 24 lapse.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
do we need to take any action if we just want to let it expire?
You don't have to take any action. You would just be You would just be saying out loud that it is your choice as a council not to pick a date, not to call the election.
Okay, I'm good with that. I would withdraw my motion because I just want to wait. But I do want to have it taken care of before the next election that we can piggyback on for free.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I
Dean.
was going to follow up that question with Maria. If we wanted the motion to put it on next year's, what would happen between now and then if we decided to change that? Like if we took a motion tonight to move forward with proceeding with meeting the date of June 3rd or whatever, if we changed our mind, if the legislator, obviously we can't predict the future, but would we make a motion like that tonight or no? Okay.
I don't think we really even could make a motion to talk about it in June, could we, or May?
With so many things happening, it really would just be for today, focusing on, does the council want to proceed with a special election or not? That would be the best thing to focus on tonight.
I think that if we let this lapse, we would just pend it for our city attorney to bring this back up in April and say, hey, we know now what the legislation did or did not do,
Sure.
and we can make some intelligent
Here's our new
decisions
options.
about what the right options are. Right now, we're just guessing. We don't really know.
Right.
So,
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
one last question I had for our attorney. Perception can be reality. And would the petition and the signatures still be valid to hold the petition? Or if we passed a new charter ordinance in May, would they have to go get X amount of signatures in order to hold the election?
If the Bel Aire Council was to vote and adopt another charter, I'm so sorry. If the Bel Aire Council was to vote and adopt another charter ordinance, whether it be in January, February, or March, and it involves this specific issue, if it is adopted by a majority vote, then a civilian, a resident, would begin the process again to get signatures. And then just like this last petition, it would be validated and vetted by the election office in order for it to be put on the ballot. That being said, municipalities do have the ability to put a question onto the ballot. That is an option as well. But I would say if you're wanting to proceed with another charter ordinance, the process that you did this time would be the best practice to do again, whether that's in January, February, March, or April of next year.
I thought there was some problem with presenting the same charter ordinance again after it had been defeated by a petition.
This specific charter ordinance did not specifically talk about our newspaper of choice. So if there was to be another charter ordinance in next year, we could include information as to which newspaper would be that official newspaper. It doesn't have to be the same, but
Make
it
it
could be a little bit different.
That would make it substantially different so that it would be legal.
Well, I don't know if there was ever really any discussion among the council as to what was going to happen for those notices that would be published, the financial. But that could be discussed more fully next time.
Okay.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, the footwork that's already been done with the signatures being collected will most likely have to be done again.
Be done again.
And that, I just want to say I wish that wasn't the case, but that's the process.
But that's only if we pass a charter ordinance. If we put it on the election, whatever the results are, that's it.
Oh, okay.
What was that question, John?
I was clarifying that they would only do a new petition if we passed a new charter ordinance. If we put the ordinance on the election, it's the election results that matter. So if 3/4 of the city says, we agree with the council, it's done.
And I think that was mentioned briefly at the last meeting, the difference between a binding issue and a non-binding issue. And I believe our city manager shared that in a presentation. If this is going to be a legally binding issue, then that would be a question that a municipality, that a specific government entity could put onto a ballot.
And it has to be worded exactly right to be a binding question.
And the Kansas Constitution actually gives guidance as to how to phrase that question. That's true.
This was workshopped before I came on council, but the issue with the term limits and wanting to put that on the ballot, the reason why that didn't work out was because it wasn't going to be binding.
Based upon the conversations that I've heard and the opinions shared, I believe that was the issue, is that that specific question was not binding.
Yeah, I think of the way that we worded it was not a binding issue, and maybe lessons learned, we would have been wiser to change the way we worded it, but, you know, that's where we are today.
That was several years ago too, I believe.
Just last
Oh,
year.
just last year? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry.
So, Mr. Mayor, that makes me even feel a little bit better because it's not my intention to make it look like we're trying to jerk them around with their petitions and make
No,
them do it
we
over.
don't
So
want that.
that makes me happier with this path even more.
Okay. So do we have a motion, or do we just want to move on to the next item?
I have withdrawn my motion. I think we just
Yes,
let it
I
drop.
know. You withdrew your motion. So I just want to make sure if anybody on the council wishes to make a different motion.
Okay, so Mayor Benaj, I would like to say the last motion failed. And at this time, from what I'm hearing from the council, is everyone had reasons to continue with Charter Ordinance 24. They want to continue, but at this time, based upon the costs, that is the real reason why we are not proceeding with it at this time. Is that a fair statement for the election?
I don't want to speak for the council members. I think they should speak for themselves. To me, it's more because there's just too much unknown with what the legislature's going to do. To me, that's the big issue. But I don't want to speak for council members, so please speak up to clarify for our city attorney.
We may all have different reasons. For me, it's the cost, and I don't think we're going to lose that much time that it's going to make a difference if we deal with this in April or May. I don't think this is a critical thing that we just have to do it tonight. I understand where Mr. Smith's coming from, but
And no one is wanting to continue with the special, we are not going to be doing that.
Well, there's the motion to do this, the motion to do the special election failed 2-3.
I just wanted to
Okay.
hear that out loud and that I'm going forward. I appreciate
Okay.
that.
Okay. Anybody else wish to say anything additional on this item? Hearing none, we'll move on to item G. So this is a proposal from Fire Protection Services. So in October, Public Works contacted Fire Protection Services to perform the annual inspection of Bel Aire's water pump system. The annual inspection is required by the city of Wichita as a condition of connecting to Wichita water system. The inspection revealed that 2 backflow devices have reached the end of their life cycle, are not holding pressure, and need to be replaced. The current backflow devices are discontinued and were last manufactured in 1986. The backflow devices are an essential part of the water supply system. When backflow devices are not working correctly, it is possible to have the city's drinking water contaminated due to pressure changes in the pipes. Staff contacted 3 companies requesting an inspection. However, Fire Protection Services was the only company available to evaluate the backflow devices before October 28th. So Public Works Director Marty McGee is here to answer any questions. Mr. McGee.
Good evening. Is there any questions? If you guys look on the pictures up here, it's not real good pictures. I kind of didn't know if I want to put them up there or not, but it kind of shows the destruction of what the pipe looks like right now. In reality, when you're looking at them, it looks a lot worse than that right there. On one of the backflow devices, it's actually almost rusted all the way through. And if you were to go in there and tap it a few times, or we get extra pressure going through that, it could blow out. So
What's the size of that pipe?
that is a 12-inch.
12 inch? Okay.
I
Just
do.
to give some
10
people
inch.
a
I'm
reference.
sorry.
It's
I'm
not,
sorry.
it's not 2-inch pipe.
No, it's
1
a
inch.
10 inch
12.
pipe.
It's a 10-inch pipe.
Yeah, the
Okay.
backflow devices are a 10 inch and it's a 16-inch main coming in from Wichita. So it reduces down and goes
So-
into 2 coming back out.
So we're limited to 10-inch pipe.
That is
For flow.
correct. That's
Okay.
that's the way the backflows work. So, yeah. So
Well, the outbound pipe is 10 inches or did it go back up to 16?
no, it comes from a 16 from Wichita into the pump house. Then it goes down to a 10 inch to the backflows right there.
Yeah.
And then it comes back out to a 16 throughout the pump house. So
Really? Okay.
I didn't design it.
Seems like a waste of time. Can you get 16-inch pipe backflows?
I don't know that.
Okay.
That wasn't the question. I never asked that.
Okay. Well, the reason I wonder because 10 inches is
Yeah.
your limit. You're not going to get more capacity than that,
You're
right?
right. You're right.
Mr. Mayor. So we all have backflow devices on our sprinklers. If you have a sprinkler system, that costs like $200-$300 if you go with the expensive company to rebuild your sprinkler
Right.
backflow. How do we get to $42,000 here?
Nice.
I understand it's 1 inches versus 10 inches, but
Guys, I
is
said
this
the same thing. When I looked at that, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But when you go and look at it, and Fire Protection Systems was the only person that responded back to me within the time limit that I had to get this done, for which Wichita's demand was October 28th. We were supposed to have it back to them by now, and we need to make a decision. Then I got to contact Wichita and let them know because they could shut us down. I mean, at that point right now, because we don't have a backflow working right now. It's leaking.
That valve is closed right now, isn't it?
One is closed, the other one is still leaking. So
Okay.
we're still getting feedback. That's why I said, let's go ahead and do both of them. Plus we got I think it was $2,500 discount by doing 2 instead of 1.
Mhm.
So
I think the difference is 1.8 million gallons a day of water going through it.
I know.
A couple thousand.
Yeah, I expected it to be more expensive, right? A lot more expensive,
Right.
but I was just curious, like, especially with only one person quoting, do we have anything that makes us feel like that's a reasonable price?
if I'd have had more time to do this, I would have done more investigation. But like I said, I'm on a timeline getting back with Wichita to make sure that we're getting our drinking water.
Well, we need to have
Safe.
that capacity. So in my view, we got to do this, but I would like you to look and see why are we not using a 16-inch back?
I can contact Fire Protection System and tomorrow and say, hey, can we move this up instead of a 10-inch? Can we go to a 16? And they're probably going to say yes, another $20,000, $25,000,
Yeah,
$30,000.
that's probably what I'm thinking is
So-
what they're going to say, but
So
we're just losing all that. It doesn't matter how big that pipe is.
Right.
No more flow is going to come than
Right.
what's that 10-inch pipe.
so
Marty,
go ahead.
a question I had was, have we ordered materials from this same company, Fire Protection Services, in the past? Do we have any history with them?
I do not know. I
Okay.
honestly do not know. I know that I have worked with them before when I worked at Lee Aerospace, and they came in and did our fire protection system, and I never had any issue with them. So I wanted to tell you guys too, even if you got a 16-inch pipe, if you look at that pipe right there where the valve is, it narrows down. So it goes to a 10-inch or 16 or 12 or whatever it is. That's how it bolts together. So
Producer fittings with it. And everything.
yeah, it's flared. It's in that way. So
Can you explain
You
that
guys-
again, Marty? We're shut down now, right?
one is shut down. The other one is working. But if we would have a break, or if we open up fire hydrants to relieve pressure, it could slosh back, go back through Wichita, and then come back through cross contamination. Is what it can do.
Okay.
So,
I thought we were shut down and I didn't fully understand what was driving.
no, one is shut down.
The
One
urgency.
backflow is
Yep.
shut down. The other one is running at this time. But
Okay. And they've given you until yesterday or a week ago to get it fixed. And
when I got the letter in the mail, I looked at it and it was in my inbox, and it says due by October 28th. Respond back to Wichita, and I haven't contacted them back because I need to get with you guys. So
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
Well, I appreciate the position that we're in and the lack of responses. And so I understand that we have to do this, and I appreciate you doing what you can here. So thank you.
Well, just know that if it could be rebuilt, if you guys know me, I would be doing that right now. Because when we tore it apart, look at it, I wanted to look in it, make sure to look at it. And it was pretty bad. There's no way to rebuild it. It will not seal, even if we put a new plunger on it. So where it's rusted all the way through. So there's no other choice but to replace it
You have to test these annually, don't you?
yearly. These
Yeah.
get tested yearly.
Yearly,
Yes.
yeah.
So Marty, this is for two. Is the idea to use the other one and use the one as a backup, or?
They were
For
both,
now.
they were both running constantly,
Okay.
all the time.
Gotcha.
So.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from Fire Protection Systems to remove and replace the double check backflow preventers in Bel Aire's water pump house at a cost not to exceed $42,110 and authorize the mayor to sign.
A motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Ms. Hamburg. Any additional questions or discussion?
Just back to the 16-inch, what if it were a little bit higher? Would we go with that? Would it improve the?
That's what I was waiting. I was going to ask you guys the same thing. I said, if you want to go to the, from the 10 to the 16, if they want to do that, and they say it's $20,000 more, do you guys want to do that? Or do you want to stay with what? Okay. So this has been working since 82, 83, 84. I don't know how long that pump house has been there. It's been
So
working
this is
great.
providing the amount of volume that we're contracted with currently. Is that correct, Mr. Lasher?
Yes, to pay or yes, it
Okay.
is.
All right.
And Marty, there's
Then
other
I-
valves that would have to be increased to 16. Like it's not
You would
just
have to
that.
replace
You'll
It's
have-
valves.
you'll have to
several
do
other
more.
parts.
I'm
So
going to
just to let you know, I'm going to put another valve in there that actually shuts the water off, so we do not have to go out and find a valve in the middle of the street or whatever, so that would shut down the pump house. And that was $6,600 to do that. I think it was 6,600 or something like that. So you'd be 6, 12, 18, 24, quite a bit more.
Well, being as it's taking care of all the volume that we're contracted with Wichita now, I would not be in favor of just going ahead and spending another 20,000 to do that. But I do think we need to think about that if we need to get into these systems anymore about
I agree.
what would that do? Because we may need that extra capacity at some time. Right now, it doesn't look like we're using it.
I think if we were going to pump any more water through that pump house, we would have to add more pumps, and the pipes would have to be upgraded to a bigger size, because I think we're probably pretty much at our capacity right now.
Oh, okay.
So
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I also don't think we should do anything different there. If we want to have an engineer come in and look at this and engineer for more capacity, I'd want to understand what it was going to take to do all of that. We can't solve that up here.
You'll try it. Yeah.
Not tonight,
Nope.
for sure. And we're not water engineers anyway.
That's right.
But I would like for us to look at that, to be able to expand that to match the pipe sizes so we could take more capacity.
sure, I can do that and get back with you guys on that.
Okay.
Let you know. I could probably let you know tomorrow if I call them tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Well, do we just maybe want to give you the leeway to just do one device if it looks like we could do the other for
If
not
we-
a lot more?
if we do the one device, they take away that $2,500 credit or whatever instead of doing two devices. Or so, I mean, we lose $2,500 if we just do one right now. So
Yeah, but we lose 22,000 if we do it, and we could have upgraded to something else for not a lot more.
right. Well, like Dean was saying, it's not just the pipe size; it's going to be the valves too. So we're going to be looking at.
There's too many moving pieces, I think, for us to try to tackle that. I think that needs to be a more thoroughly thought through, both water volume contract and that pump house. So because it's handling all the volume we're buying today and that we're contracted with. So if we had the capacity, you couldn't use the volume.
Right. I don't know that Wichita could actually supply us any more than what we're doing right now. I would have to
Really?
ask my water operator, because we're using quite a bit right now.
Okay,
So
Okay.
I can't answer that.
just
question
something to
this
look
time.
at for future.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
You know, we know our usage is going to go up, so we should have some kind of plan.
Right. So we have two sources though, from Wichita and we have from CCUA. So that's how we're getting our demand, I should say, keeping up with what we need. So
Any other questions or discussion? We have a motion on the table to accept the bid from Fire Protection not to exceed $42,110 by Mr. Smith, and second by Ms. Hamburg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. So item F is consider a quote from Axion Enterprises. And I believe our chief of police is here tonight, Chief Atterbury. So the police department has used the Axon body cameras since 2014 and currently maintains 13 body worn cameras. The police department last purchased BWCs in 2019 with the purchase spread over 60 months. So the current contract is due to expire in November of 2024. Bel Aire Police Department has recently contacted by an Axion representative and advised that Axion products would see a 6% increase in price at January 1 of 2024. So the proposed new contract will include the cameras, docks, warranties, licenses, cables, equipment exchange, and storage. And Chief Atterbury is here to explain the purchase and answer questions. Mr. Chief Atterbury.
I wish I would have gone first. Any questions?
Does this 84,000 include the rebate we're getting, or do we get the rebate on top of that?
It's figured into it.
It's figured into it.
Yeah. And I will say that Lieutenant Fox negotiated with Axon and did an excellent job because the unbundled price was around 114,000, and he worked with them to bundle, and the price would have been 105,181. He negotiated some things for free that we got, and he did a really good job getting that down to that 84,454. So.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
So is this a lease program or just a purchase program? I wasn't completely clear on that. I think we've done different things with Axon in the past with the tasers versus the cameras. And it seems like there's a variety of different programs that they offer. Are we buying these? Are we leasing them? Do they upgrade them for free? Like, how does that all work here?
Yes. We own them in the end. They do upgrade. There are on the contract, you'll see two dates where they replace the cameras we have and replace them with new ones. The last one being in 2029. So that is a big thing to us because then we get new equipment, new electronics, updated. The other big thing that we're doing with this contract is because every year we have to revisit storage. We're electing to go with unlimited storage because it seems like we always have to revisit that and unplanned expense. This way we've got a planned expense and it's covered in the equipment replacement fund right now to do this. We're just doing it a little earlier because of the savings we can get from the company, plus the savings we got with negotiations that Lieutenant Fox worked out.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you for that. I didn't see any sort of like finance charge or anything in there for doing pay over 60 months versus paying a lump sum. I assume we're not paying any sort of finance or interest by paying it over 60 months.
No.
Might be buried in the details, but we don't have it.
It's probably figured in there somehow.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
Chief, I think I saw in there, if I'm remembering right, that it's going to integrate with your dash cams now. Did
Yes.
I read that right?
Mhm.
What will that practically do for you guys?
When you turn on the car lights and the car camera comes on, the body cam comes on also. Because I personal experience, sometimes I forget to turn it on until I look down and see it. I need to turn it on. that's big because you don't want to miss things that happen. The other thing is that if another officer is within 45 feet, it'll turn their camera on too. That's one of the things. There are a lot of benefits to this. One of them is the battery life, and that's going to go back to the replacement, because the current camera, this one right here, over time it can lose up to 15% of battery life per year. Okay, and the new cameras are below 10%. So one of the problems we have is that you get almost all the way through a shift and your camera's almost dead. So, and that's like I recharged this halfway through the day because I was in the office, and now it's 41%. So that's one of the issues that we've experienced is that battery life. If I can find my sheet here. So these have a bigger field of view also, the new ones. So it's supposed to increase about 16%. So we're going to be able to see more. They've got blurred correction so that if you're moving around, you don't get that blurry view. This is all, they're just not cameras. You know, we're not taking photos of our lunch to post online. We're using these for evidence, crime scenes and car stops. And they've been invaluable to us when people have called in and contradicted what the officers say. Because I can take that video and just show that person, well, this is what happened. And almost every time, well, I don't remember it that way. Well, it's right there. So that's been a big benefit to us. The other thing that the officers use, and I know you haven't asked, but they try to create excellent reports, and they're able to see things that happen in the video and include those so that they have very accurate reports. And I'm sure the city attorney enjoys accuracy in those reports.
So did I hear you correctly? The officer no longer has option to turn the camera on. It goes on automatically once he turns his emergency lights on.
Right.
So I think that's an improvement. I've heard citizens say officers ought to have their camera on all the time. And I said, well, wait a second, that's a whole lot of storage that you don't need for dead space. But yeah.
By having it come on when the car lights come on, that's different than having it on all the time.
Right.
Because there have been departments that have been sued by employees because they said, you can't turn it off. I have to go to the bathroom. Okay. Because it catches very personal things, right. You know, phone calls with your spouse,
right.
You know, personal conversations, catches it all. And just because you're a city or a government employee doesn't mean everybody should have access to all your personal information.
Yeah.
And
makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If there are no other questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the quote from Axon Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of the Axon cameras, docks, cables, warranty, storage, and license at the cost of $84,454 with the payment to be spread over 60 months and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is an executive session, but I would like to ask for a 10-minute recess.
I'll make a motion for a 10-minute recess.
Motion by Mr. Smith for 10-minute recess. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're in 10-minute recess. Thank you. Apparently, Okay, we held 10-minute recess, and we'll call the meeting back to order. Next item in the agenda is executive session, and I request a 45-minute executive session.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of attorney-client consultation regarding contractual obligations pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite the city manager, city attorney, bond counsel, and assistant city manager. The meeting will be for a period of 45 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:30 p.m.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Ms. Hamburg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. We're in executive session for 45 minutes. That motion passed 5-0. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session and no binding action was taken. Ready to move on to discussion and future issues. So next Tuesday, November 14th at 6:30 is our regular workshop. We'll make sure everybody's available for that regular workshop on 14th. And so far, we have quite a few things to talk about. Updates on 45th and 53rd Street by Garver. Proposed sanitary sewer and pretreatment ordinance by Burns and McDonald. A comp plan update and zoning map by PEC. And a proposed ERP system and 2024 fee schedule. So that's going to be a long night. If we do all of that, I don't know how much we can parse out of that, but might want to think about that. See, maybe put it in priority. If we say, you know, we've been here for 3 hours, let's go home. We can do that. So just work through the priorities there if you could.
On the 45th Street discussion, can we get Ann to give us a rough estimate of what it would cost just to replace the asphalt?
Yeah, I'll ask Garver to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Good. All right. And then November 21st is a regular city council meeting. So it is the week of Thanksgiving. Just want to make sure everybody is available to be here for that meeting, or if we need to cancel it or reschedule it. Although I don't know what you're going to reschedule it to, because I don't have any time the next week. I'm out of town, out of the country. So,
I'm good with those dates. I'm not good with what's on the agenda. It's got the workshop on the 14th and a regular meeting on Sunday, the 19th, and I'm not coming on a Sunday to a council meeting.
I don't know what you're looking at on the agenda. I guess I did see that. Yeah, that's
None
not
of them
right.
should be the 19th.
Right, that's just wrong. I don't know what happened there. Okay. So it should be the 14th for the workshop, the 21st for the regular meeting. So,
I'm not traveling for Thanksgiving, so I'm fine with the 21st.
okay. If everybody's fine with it, then I just want to make sure we're okay.
Fine with the 21st. The 14th, we do have the Wichita Area Chamber event that we're all invited to.
Oh, yeah.
So I would like to move it back a half hour
To 7?
to 7.
So you go to the chamber then?
Yeah, if anybody else wanted to go to that. But if not, I can skip it too.
I'm good with 7 o'clock. I'd like our workshops to start then anyway.
Trying to remember what chamber. I know they had one in December. I'm trying to remember the one in November.
Should be in your email.
I got an invite to it.
Yeah. I just haven't checked my email.
So if everybody's good with 7 o'clock on the 14th, we'll make it 7 so that
I think that's
those
fine.
who
We'll
want to
just
go to
have
the chamber.
shorten the agenda.
Yeah, they're going to work on that anyway. So Ted apparently already went away to start doing that. I don't know that. So, okay, so you want to make it 7? So we'll do 7 o'clock on the 14th. Okay. And if there's nothing else to discuss, I'll entertain a motion to
Mayor.
adjourn.
Just real quick while we're
Yes.
here, Ty, the things that went up at the different intersections, the 45th Street traffic studies are getting ready to start. Is that what those devices are that went up around the
Yes,
city?
I
Okay,
believe so. Yep.
thanks.
So, well, we could talk after the meeting. We don't need, let's go on and adjourn. So if somebody wants to make a motion,
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Ms. Hamburg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Everybody have a